Hello, and welcome to RIME Entertainment Showcase with your hosts, Rita and Mel.
Hi guys, welcome to the first episode for July RIME Entertainment Showcase. Okay, so today we are interviewing Darren J Benjamin. Darren J Benjamin is a music composer who's worked with quite a number of artists and is also collaborating and music composing for theatre productions, film scores, you name it, he's doing it. And we go into his journey from, a very young age of like 7, 8 years old, from playing the piano at school assembly to going into making his dream come true, where he is music composing full time and working with some amazing, amazing people. And we just know that you're going to love this interview this month.
There's so much content there, so much to inspire you. Again, as we always say, our guests have a way of inspiring us too, and we learn a lot about the composing field and doing musical scores. So without further ado,
I'm going to let you watch the interview. Bye.
See you soon.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our second part of the show. Today we've got a very special guest. This is Darren Benjamin, who is a music composer. Welcome to RIME Entertainment Showcase, Darren.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys.
No worries, you're welcome.
So, we like to start off the show by finding out about your journey. So, can you share with us your musical journey when you were growing up, and where did your passion for music begin?
Oh, okay. So I guess the first thing is really that I was probably forced into music because I didn't have a choice. My father was like a minister at a church, still is, and the church needed music. So I was sent to piano lesson, and we had a piano in our house. So I started tinkling on the piano, but I also at the same time needed to make sense of what I was playing or what I was learning. So it started there at the age of 7 and 8. And then I would say it sort of led into music at school, having my own groups and stuff and doing Christmas and Easter performances in junior school and secondary school.
Amazing.
In fact, in junior school, I used to play the piano while kids walked into assembly. That was their version of putting on a YouTube track. This was back in the late 80s. So, calming down the kids, so to speak. So, and I was doing that from about sort of year 5, maybe 10 years old. So, but I was used to that because I was already performing in front of people at church. Church is a big, massive performance if you're playing in church. So I've been doing that then, and it's just gradually, sort of snowballed into from one thing into the other. Basically, at the age of 16, going on to study a little bit of music at college, and then going on to music college. And but it started from the age of 7, I'd say, 7, 8.
Amazing.
Wow. So it's thanks to your father that you actually
got that drive,
got into that.
So mum and dad, really, when kids were at the park playing basketball and football, I used to have to leave the park on my bike and ride to my music lesson. Oftentimes I'd be late because I wouldn't have a watch or anything, and she'd be like, "You're 15 minutes late." But in the end, it paid off. It's like, because you think about it now, it's like, well, what would I be doing with my life if I didn't end up taking music lessons or doing that,
Yeah,
So.
yeah. That's amazing. So, moving on from that, so I've been told, of course, that you've been touring with names like Soul to Soul, Boney M, Jocelyn Brown. Tell us about that journey. How did that happen?
Okay, it's amazing because like with every arena, it's really who you know. So it's a network, isn't it? And someone just recommends you. And a lot of my gigs that I ended up doing when I was on the road came from people that I'd met in the church circuit.
Yeah.
So the circuit of playing and being amongst other musicians at church, and they had contacts. Some of them playing for people like Simply Red, Westlife and stuff. Yeah. And it just ended up. So could you come and do this gig? And it's like, yeah, sure. And that gig happened to be soul to soul. I mean, that's after maybe a few years of experience for someone to maybe call you and do that. It was the network of being amongst musicians that also played in church that were maybe 5-10 years ahead of me in their so-called career.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Amazing.
So is the importance of networking, having a good group of people around you?
Absolutely. It's funny because you wouldn't say that church is networking. Church is just a community, but it's natural networking. It's like, oh, you're the person I know, you're good to do that. And rather than maybe choose someone who or go for an agency, that it just happened organically. And so I would say that my networking now as a composer is completely different because it's a wider world. It's a different market. It's a different clientele, and it's completely different. Whereas if a lot of the time I would watch something on TV and of an artist in the UK, and I'll be asking myself the question, do I recognize those musicians? Because I pretty much know a lot of them if they're from church, up and down the country. And that's not because of networking, that's just because it's a kind of circuit within itself of growing up and being at that church or being at that church. And so it's kind of natural. Yes, the importance of networking is can never be not, but it was also a natural community. It's like, you meet so-and-so when you go there. And you didn't even realize that you exchanged numbers at the time or whatever. And then all of a sudden you're being called to do this, that and the other.
That's amazing. Again, because it's such a small world as well. You don't know who you're kind of touching base with, and again, you see it on things like social media. The fact that we've got 10 mutual friends, or and then you start to build this again network or community. And I feel that's really helped. And luckily, you had that within having a good church group there to have that.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing it around. I mean, now it's more virtual than when we're going to something like church, which is great. Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
I just wanted to ask, in terms of that whole experience, I mean, when you obviously first went on stage, or maybe just actually that interaction with them, how was that? Was it quite nerve-wracking, or did you feel, you kind of got to know them before? And
are you talking about the artists or the musicians there? Just the actual...
Yeah, I think a bit of both, the artists and the musicians that were working with them,
So you probably, it depends on the stakes of the gig, really. But generally, as I say, any musician that's coming from church, they've already, it's like if you watch the story of Whitney Houston, or if you watch the story of, Aretha Franklin, these guys were doing this, before the world saw them. When they were 9-10 years old, they had to do it with a choir behind them, with a congregation in front of them of 200-300 people. And that is pretty much the same thing, even though you're not standing in front of the mic and you're playing the music and part of the band. I don't necessarily go to church as much now, but it's almost like you're on a course that you just can't pay for in terms of performance and just the confidence playing and being around. It even comes out in a room when you're with people. You're constantly performing. You're not masking or being a separate person. But in answer to your question, Rita, all the preparation work and nerves were done in your time playing at church events. When you think about the old folks in church, who are very judgmental of younger people. It's like, you're doing this and that. If you can please them, then going into a room
you're
with
on the right track.
People who's half drunk, it's like, it's fun, man. This is cool. So the prep work was already done, and I'm sure this will resonate if any sort of musician or any artist from the backgrounds where I'm from, this would resonate with them. This is where it starts.
And I guess because you're focused on your music, and I guess
the love of it,
and your passion for it. So the crowd and all the it's kind of like disappears because you're almost in the flow of what you're doing. Exactly. Well, the fortunate thing about a gig or something like that is that you rehearse. There's no rehearsal really at church. It's spontaneity. It's on the moment. It's you had to be on it. Mistakes included as well.
Exactly.
That's been a good learn.
No, it's a great one to do. This is why people should go to church. But
I'm lucky, as I say, myself now, I'm more of a spiritual person, and I do visit church occasionally, but I cannot knock the sense of community and the lessons that I've learned in church as a musician, just as a young man. Church has taught me morals, through my father. Even despite the conversation going on of Black Lives Matter today, I'm fortunate for an upbringing that has always, from the get-go, allowed me to see people as equal, allowed me to love and to respect other people, and I've never ever looked on someone based on the color of their skin. So, that's a whole nother conversation, but it all kind of ties into the fact that this is all part of my upbringing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Awesome, lovely. So moving on from, when you were playing at gigs with these amazing artists, you've also arranged music for a number of West End shows.
Yeah.
What was that experience like, and how different was that compared to performing music again at church and also with the artists that we've just spoken about?
Good question. The first lesson it taught me was timekeeping. Because now you're outside of the bubble of knowing everyone, and in the bubble of theatre, certainly when it comes to rehearsals, you have a call, and a call is about 3 hours, depending if you're part of the musicians union. And I think if you're an actor, it's longer because you're with Equity as a union. And it taught me a lot about discipline, and also just appreciating the fact that this was the first time, sort of like in my mid-20s, where you're in an environment where you are really out of your comfort zone. And that wasn't anything to do with my musical ability. It was just being in a different situation. So it was very different. So I had to learn to be on time. You've discovered that after day one, just to treat time differently. And it's not that I was a person that was late before, but you just had to be careful of that. And now we're really entering into the world of storytelling. Although you are already doing that as an artist or creative, essentially this is storytelling every night with the actors on stage. Because every theatre production I have done and be a part of, the music is already there, and I'd work with the MD, or if it was myself MDing it, and help to arrange that music. But we are now thinking about a story in mind. What's being said here, what's being done on stage. Does there need to be any underscore of live playing? So we're always being sensitive to what we see on stage. I always say this as a person that's worked in theatre, that the best actors are the ones that are in theatre, because there's no like action, no, take again, we'll do that. Exactly. You're seeing it.
Wow, it's amazing. And it's where you've mentioned again it's about the feelings as well. Just knowing, what undertones you need to put in terms of music, and the powerfulness. What do you need? It's an art in itself. And sometimes as well, when we've attended theatres, when you do see the band, it's like that energy from those that are playing it. It's the music, the surrounding, and you've got to get it right every single night, afternoon, whichever show you're going to. It's got to be done correctly. And I'm always amazed by that, and I just think, what a talent on both sides, the acting and the music.
Did it expand your horizons in terms of obviously doing theatre and then having done, being on tour with a band? Did that sort of expand in terms of obviously composing music for films? Is that where it all transitioned?
Absolutely. It was my experience in theatre with storytelling. And someone says, a few times someone said to me, would you consider like doing stuff for theatre or composition? Because I think, because I was always in musicals that you had the music, but the music allowed you to go off sheet.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just rigid as we play everything the same every night and that's it. It was almost like a little bit of a sketch. And the first musical I was in was a musical called The Harder They Come. No one's probably never heard of it, but a lot of people would have heard of Jimmy Cliff, who did the song "You Can Get It If You Really Want," or many of us. Those were all songs from that musical. It was a film that was written and produced by a man named Perry Hensel in 1971, I believe.
Wow.
And then it came to the stage in the sort of early 2000s. Unfortunately, God rest his soul, Perry Hensel died during the mount of maybe the first or second series that we did.
Yeah.
But it was that time I started to enter the world of storytelling, because when you hear the directors talk, and they were directing the actors and also, for example, directing the musicians, it involves you to think, hang on a minute, it's not just really about the notes that I'm playing, it's about the feeling, it's about the intention, and what can I change here? So, and because it was a sort of sketch, every night there's a possibility of a little change. The actors were never acting, or the actresses would never act in the same way every night. So if there's change, you might go with that according to the music, but allowing you to go slightly off to wherever they go. So yeah, it's the world of, it was the bridge for me entering into the world of storytelling. Absolutely.
It's a wonderful journey.
So
Yeah.
what is it that you love most about composing music, would you say?
Oh, wow, that's
It's a tricky one.
So I heard Hans Zimmer in a you heard of Hans Zimmer, a famous music composer. He's done lots of films. I'm fortunate to meet him a few years back. I heard him in an interview say, when you do a film, all that's happening is you are meeting other insecure people at their most insecure. And I said that's really interesting. What I mean by that is, what brought me into music, it brought so I could potentially see more of myself. But the more you do for people, is the more shy you almost get. And I'll say that. So say for example, you girls had a project and you said, Darren, could you write some music for us? The moment, we sit down and say, okay, yeah, sure, great. You want it to sound like that? Great. The moment I've got to play my music to you, I feel, oh, I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve a little bit here, because these girls are seeing a piece of me, and whether you accept that work for the first draft or whatever is another story. But I'm basically, in answer to your question, allowing you to see a part of myself. And there's nothing like in composition where you hear your work back against something, and it's almost like the jigsaw you've been trying to put together for days, or in some cases weeks, just comes together, and it's like, you sit back and say, wow, I really like that. I hope that's meaningful to someone and their journey or their life or whatever, in a way that live music for me can't. And that's just my own personal opinion. That's not negates, because I still do live gigs sometimes, but it's not where my complete focus is, where I would like to create a work of art and have it be a part of something and potentially tell a bigger story. And so that's really, I mean, the feeling is to have, the first time it happened to me, hearing something being played and how it makes me feel like, I think the highest sense of or feeling is joy. I get joy from hearing my music in its rightful place. I can't explain that level of joy, whether it's a musical that I've been asked to write one or two pieces for, or working with an artist, or doing a short film or a documentary. The moment someone says thumbs up and they've accepted and respected your music for what it is, and you have been able to help to be part of a team that tells a story, to hear that is a sense of joy that I can't. I get more out of that than the adrenaline being on stage and playing night after night. Although you get a lot of accolades and people saying, "Oh, great, fantastic," and want to take selfies, especially if you were in like the eastern parts of the world with Boney. You're just like a complete and utter superstar wherever you go. Exactly. But seriousness, when that's all died away, people had that feeling and experience. But one thing with composing for me is they're able to revisit it time and time.
And connect to that feeling. I was thinking, like, when you were talking about that, in terms of when you're working with other creatives, for example, say on a short film or trying to put it all together in terms of your music, how does that work out? Do you find that you will just listen to what the script's about? Do you go away, read the script and come back and get an idea of the feeling that they want and then work from that? Or are you putting your part into it and saying, okay, this is the sort of music, this is the feeling that we could create? How does it work in terms of that?
It works in both ways. I think it will always, at the heart of everything, will always be the story. Following the story. So a lot of the time now, you'll find it with a short film, which may be shot over the space of a week. I would read the script. They'll be already filming or just finishing filming. Then all of a sudden, you'll sit down and have a conversation with the director, and they will have a few ideas in there. They might have some temporary music in with the film, which is called temp music. To say this is kind of what we want it to sound like, but not exactly the same. So that's one way of doing it. But it would always, I've never done a film or short film, a document. Well, you don't get a script with documentary, but with short film, I've never done a short film that I've never read the script. I've always read the script, so it's given me a sense of understanding. And with some directors, they just want your complete input. They want your full authority on something to say, look, I'm not sure which direction this should go in. Can you play or put something together for me? Or even a case for you might be pitching for a job and you'll have to do that, a bigger job.
Exactly.
And, there'll be a pool of composers that would want this job, and so they're trying to find which person best fits. So you have to submit a piece of music, and that happens at even Hollywood level.
Yeah, exactly.
That happens unless you're a big name like John Williams or Hans Zimmer, which they're calling you because you're at the pinnacle. Everyone else, it could be potentially you're being a pool of composers where, shall we go with that person or we go with that person? And if they really can't decide, they may say, can you submit something to us on this particular cue? And, from there, as I say, you'll be looking at the footage, or very, very rarely would you read the script there because they don't want to give you the script. And if they give you the footage, you'll see maybe the watermark on it to say Sony Pictures or something. So you can't. I mean, not that composers want to do that and destroy he or she's career anyway. But people work in different ways, and having a script beforehand, always been the case. I'll tell you something though. Not everyone works in that way. If you look at big collaborations like Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer. Christopher Nolan gets Hans Zimmer to write music before sometimes and shoot scenes to the music. So a lot of collaborations work in different ways. I would love to do that. That would be great because that's basically giving you free reign without any limitations.
Exactly.
So yeah.
You're inspiring us.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I'm like in the head thinking, this is really interesting. And I think like going back to where you were saying about, that's a piece of you, that vulnerability makes it that bit more special. Because when, if you get that script and saying, right, I'm now going to do some music to that. But again, that piece of you is going into that movie. And to be honest, for me, when I watch a movie, if I find that the soundtrack, and I know this might sound a little bit strange, maybe it doesn't, I don't know, but if the musical score doesn't support certain scenes really well, or it just doesn't sound right, it does it loses the emphasis, and no one actually realises, well, I'm sure there's a lot of people, but I think we sometimes take the musical scores for granted.
You
don't really see how much it really does make the film what it is. Because that dramatic, where it's dramatized, but also that element of vulnerability, because you connect with music and then you connect with what you see and what you hear. And well, for me, that's the way I feel. Yeah.
No, I agree, and it's great that you pay attention to it, because a lot of people watch stuff and unless they've really had a conversation with someone, it's in their subconscious. It's like, oh yeah, you mean the music so the stuff that the actors can't hear, but you can hear as the viewer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Of course. Yeah, I never looked at it like that. Okay, So.
That's great. Good stuff. Okay.
So
go for it.
So you're living your dreams in terms of your career.
Yeah.
What's been the highlight so far of your career?
Oh wow! I did something 2 years ago that I was really proud of. I mean, I do plenty of things I'm proud of, but one thing I could look back and say, wow, I was really honored to be called for that, it was the 70th anniversary of Empire Windrush that came to the UK. The first ship that docked here with migrants from the West Indies to land in the UK, and a company in Greenwich, or should I say not in Greenwich. The actual event was in Greenwich. A company was putting on a open air thing at the Cutty Sark, showing names of the first people that came onto the boat, and they wanted some music for that occasion. So it was the very same night that the 70th was on. It was I think it's like Greenwich Arts Festival, and so one of the coordinators, they asked me to compose some music and work with a script writer, and also put some of the interviews along with that music. And there was also a write-up about it in the paper. The guy that I worked with on that project, and I was like, wow, this is a really, really proud moment, because in actual fact, it's not just the music and just the caliber of the event, but my parents are from the West Indies, so although they didn't come over on that initial first boat that I think docked in Tilbury or something like that, they were generation maybe 10 years later that moved here, and started a life for themselves in the West Indies. So to be part of that, and knowing that my grandmother and grand aunts and all these people were basically part, it just felt, and this is what I'm saying about the vulnerability, thinking about the music inside of that. When you're asked to do that, it's like, what does this mean for grandma? What does this mean for granddad? Or
it's a tribute.
Although they weren't one of the people to be interviewed, and there's some interviews on that. What would that sound like? The sense of spirituality about it, and so it was just a really proud moment. And they, because the anniversary is coming up again, so the company got in touch with me, and I think it's going to be on the Barbican website, the same piece of music along with the interviews in the coming weeks. So I'm sure there's a lot of things happening in the future to be excited about, but you can see the emotional connection for me there, right, with parents and family being from the West Indies. So that was a real proud moment.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I can't imagine how that must have felt, but that's really good. And I think also, like you mentioned about, when you were playing for your church group as well, and getting the approval from the elders, this is like almost like that same thing, because when it's so close to home, especially about, your family and, that connection there, you actually feel, I really need to do a good job. And, and when it's done, you're like, oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. And just to hear some of the people who were interviewed, and what, it was maybe about between 15 and 20 people, but the fact that they said they loved the music, and it felt like something that, they felt they could resonate with. I was like, wow, okay, it's job done, because that could be my grandmother that was saying that. Exactly.
So it was a really proud moment.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
Great stuff.
So, obviously, when someone's going for their dreams, there are some struggles. How did you overcome your struggles in terms of your career? Like the ups and downs, the emotions of feeling confident and going out there, but also at the same time, that uncertainty as well.
Well, I think you've got to have people around you that you can check in with, and because they will often see things that you don't see. And for example, progress is sometimes can become blind to the person who's on the journey. So just checking in with someone, having people around you that are pro and for your, for your journey. Because you'll always have struggles. That isn't going to go away. I'm trying to step up to the next level of composing. So how do I go about that? Do I look at what I haven't done yet and be down about that? No. So you have to look at the next thing. What can I do today to move the journey forward? And as I say, having people around you, or having someone to check it, and they don't necessarily have to be a composer, but someone that understands a creative's journey, it's completely different from being 9 to 5. There's nothing wrong with being 9 to 5, but there is always that security. You look at things differently when you're creating. You don't look at your time as, especially when you love doing something.
Yeah.
It always gets a bit blurred.
Yeah.
It always gets a bit blurred. So, you know, a 9 to 5 person will leave their office and go home and do something completely different. But with a creative, whatever that is, right across the board, you tend to take your work around a lot with you.
Yeah.
Look at someone, you know, the biggest creatives out of Hollywood. It's going to be the same thing. It's not a case of, you know, a clock on here and clock up there. So the struggle is always, and as I say, just checking in with someone from that walk of life, find out what they did, what they're doing. And it's okay to work a job and it not being related to what you do, as long as you are spending time. I mean, okay, I'm in music full time now, but that wasn't, I didn't just stop doing whatever I was doing before and then, you know, oh, okay, you know, the process had to be gradual. I often hear a lot of people say, I had a woman talking and talking about the struggles of moving into the career that you want, and people find it almost sometimes a little bit embarrassing that they're doing a job, and people ask them about, oh, what do you do? And they don't associate with that job in any way, shape or form, and they say, oh, I'm a singer or something. Oh, what are you doing here then if you're a singer? But you've got to have that fixation, you know, and that comes from being around people that potentially are, you know, doing similar stuff to yourself. So that's what I would definitely recommend if someone is struggling, and everyone struggles because it's a journey.
Yeah, it's part of life, absolutely. Really, ups and downs.
Yeah,
that's great.
Lovely. Okay, so our next question is basically about your advice to any other aspiring music composers.
Whoa, okay.
If you were to give 3 tips, now you've kind of given one already, so we could probably go a bit easier, maybe do 2 tips. But if you wanted to give the 3rd one, what tips would you give?
Well, the first thing, anyone who wants to be a composer or is getting into composition first thing is to listen to music. You have to listen to music. And that might sound obvious, but I mean, it should be a thing that you do quite often. Listen and analyze music. Because to be a composer, you kind of have to be a chameleon. You have to be able to shape and adapt to what something is asking you to do. So that's the first thing. I would say the second thing is to do. So listening to music is your ears. So here's one of the biggest struggles I found when I first started, you know, buying. I mean, I've been producing since 17, 18, but really deliberately composing, as I say, 5, 6 years ago, was to get your music online and play it to friends, or when you move past that stage of getting your ego straight. I mean, I don't necessarily do that now, but get out there and email people that might be, you know, wanting music for something, because at that point you're going to feel vulnerable. You're going to feel like, oh my gosh. So doing it is doing. You can't be claimed to do something, and you can't claim to be something and you're not doing it. Doesn't matter the level that it's on.
Yeah.
You have to do. You have to do. So it's like the best speakers in the world, public speakers. They read a lot of books. So you have to listen to a lot of music in order to soak in because music is a language and there's different ways to tell stories. So you have to listen to that and find out, if you don't understand it, how to understand it. And we're blessed in this day and age that we can reach out to people, or there's so much information online. Essentially, you could learn how to do something without even going to school if you've got the right people around you. So I'll say that. So listen to music, take action, actually write music. Whether, you know, John Williams says he aims to write 2 minutes of music a day. You might find that's a lot. So how about 30 seconds to a minute, or dedicate 1 hour a day to that, you know? So for example, all phones switched off. I'm just going to write some music today. I don't know what it's for, but eventually it might be for something. You might be able to submit it to a library company, an online when I say library, online music library company that have advertising agencies come and pick music, and then your music gets picked, and you end up making royalties and initial money. So the doing is so important. Let me try and see if I can find a third. Eventually, as a result of that, I'm probably, which I'm in the process of doing, because I definitely do those two, is developing your own voice. And it's funny because this same thing can be seen right across the board in creative. It's not just music. It's if you're an artist, the great painters developed their style after continuously mimicking other painters. Someone said that we only stand on the shoulders of the greats before us, and that is what we do as artists. So, and that comes from continuously doing. I'm trying to develop my own voice. Maybe some would say it's not quite developed yet. I don't know, but I'm certainly, that comes from doing, and I do compose music. Whether I've got a project or not, it's harder when you don't have a project, but you must keep going to compose and develop your own voice.
Another great tips.
Yeah, really good tips.
Yeah.
So inspiring.
And I think what you're saying about keep doing as well, and I think a lot of us, one of the human needs is about growth and about contribution as well. So we're always constantly learning. I think as long as we remind ourselves that it's it's good to learn, and it's good to keep transitioning all the time. It's not weakness, it's actually progressing. And as you said, you reach a point in your career and it's like, okay, what next? How do I evolve from this? How do I grow from this?
Exactly.
And keep on going. So you made some valid points.
Really, really valid and so valuable. Even I'm just thinking in my head, how can I push myself a little bit more now? So it's really great. Thank you for that, Darren.
So what other projects have you got in the pipeline or currently working on at the moment?
Okay, so at the moment, I'm in the process of doing a lot of music that is launching me out there as an artist. Obviously, we're in the middle of a, dare I say, lockdown. When you look outside, it doesn't look like lockdown.
No, not at all.
But yeah, I obviously composing music, you can sometimes be in a position where you're constantly doing something for someone else. But I guess this is part of what I'm doing now, is to find number 3 on that list of developing your own voice. So I'm in the process, and the first one's going to be released next week. So I'll tell you about my social media handles if anyone wants to follow me. I'm in the process of now releasing music as Darren J Benjamin, which is my artist name. J actually is the initial for my middle name, but that's actually my credit name to look up any credits of myself. And I'm going to be releasing pieces of music where it's featuring other musical artists. The first one's done. It's just a matter of being released on Spotify in the next few days, where it features a fantastic cellist. Her name is Lydia Alonso. She's a fantastic human being and wonderful sounding cellist. And we have done an epic sort of cinematic piece, which is going to be released on Spotify in the next few days. And probably by the time this interview is released, it probably will be released. So working on that at the moment. I'm also working on a second piece, which will probably be released in the next few months. I was just working on that this morning before speaking to you, is with a singer by the name of Nadine Lee. She is a fantastic vocalist, and we have done a style in, again, it's cinematic, and she has recorded vocals in Swahili.
Amazing.
Yeah, and the music, I said, all the focus with all of my music is inspirational music. So every single piece that I release is an inspirational piece. So someone can listen to it, and it takes them on a journey, and only raises their frequency. So this piece I'm working on with Nadine is it was inspired by feeling that I wanted to produce and compose something that was set with Africa in mind. Yeah. And I have got a lot of inflections in that piece that allow that to come out. And on top of that, Nadine has written some wonderful phrases in Swahili that talk about sunrise and encouragement. So it's amazing that you'll be hearing a piece in another language, but still give you the same feeling of uplift. Watch this space for that will be released soon as well. And I've got a lot of other theatre and TV things in the pipeline, just in discussion at the moment. So we'll see what happens with that.
Oh, it's exciting.
And you've got something to do with meditation, is that correct?
Yes. So a passion project of mine is to, I've been doing it for a while actually, maybe since the start of last year, is to compose, I compose music for sleep, relaxation, meditation and stress relief. And along with a friend of mine, her name is Ellie Grace. She is a certified yoga instructor and does guided meditation. And we upload a lot of stuff to our YouTube channel, what we've got together, which is Relax, Unwind, Meditate. Don't look for my face on there because it wouldn't be on there. But if you typed in Relax, Unwind, Meditate on to YouTube, we've got over 100 pieces, at least 20 pieces in each section of piano music for relaxation, sleep music, for anywhere ranging from an hour to 8 hours long, stress relief music. A lot of this stuff is with natural sounds. Why I did this, because I knew there's a lot of people around me that was asking there was a need for it. And why the thing that I wanted to go into full time, I knew that it could help others. And I also upload under my own name, Darren J Benjamin, to the biggest meditation app in the world, which is Insight Timer.
Amazing.
So I have a number of tracks on there that are doing very, very well. Relax, Unwind, Meditate. If you type that into YouTube, go and check out some of the music. I hope you like what you hear. And it benefits from you. It has done for so many people across the world, whether it's just music in the background for sleep or stress relief, or listening to one of Ellie's guided meditations. I hope it certainly has worked for the people that have given us feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now I can recall I've seen it on YouTube where with the Relax, Unwind, Meditate. And it's been one of those ones that I do go to regularly already. So there you go. Yeah. See what I mean about that small world? Even virtually, we can connect without even realizing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, where can our viewers go to find out more about you now?
Okay.
Plug your social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So my social media, as I said, I don't know if my Zoom name is going to be at the bottom anytime I have a Zoom conversation. If you just type in Darren J Benjamin into Google, you'll find out everything about me, and it's all good. I hope I say that, and I hope that there's no terrible headline that comes out. He said this and he said that. Then all of a sudden,
anything.
People have to be so careful about what they say now. But yes, if you type into Darren J Benjamin into Twitter, you'll see my handle there, and you'll see me come up. Also, Darren J Benjamin into Instagram. You'll see my handle come up there, and I post stuff always relating to what I'm doing. So you won't be any sort of boring stuff on your feed. It'll be information that's pertaining to a musical release or something that I'm working on.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Any final message to the viewers for?
Also you can get in touch with me on my website, which is darrenjbenjamin.com.
Perfect.
That's all one word, and if you go to the contact page, you can get in contact with me there. In terms of something to say to the viewers, I would say where I'm at now, just try to be the best version of yourself every day. That's what I aim to do every day, and I always go to bed at night asking that question: Did I give it the best shot I could today? And that's a good question to ask yourself. Sometimes I hope you don't get like me and probably can't sleep thinking, did you really do enough today?
You wake up and do something that, that little bit extra. So, now.
Yeah, exactly. Be the best version of yourself, whatever it is that you do. Just be the best version of yourself. That is certainly all I can recommend to anyone that's listening. And if you want to reach out to me, please do. As I say, there's my website or Twitter or Instagram. Send me a message. I'll definitely get back to you.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Darren. That's really such a good interview. Giving me lots of food for thought. As always, I've always got food for thought going.
We'll be sharing our food for thought and we'll probably be in touch with you as well and be like, right, Darren,
Darren, we've got another project here. Definitely. But no, it's great to connect with you. And again, I think this would definitely cause for maybe another part 2 to see what else is in the pipeline for your new projects. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be great.
It'll be so good. We need to definitely keep in touch and make sure that the viewers hear more of you. And again, get onto Google, guys. Google Darren J Benjamin. Go to his Instagram. It's all good. But yeah, so inspirational. Thank you again for being a guest.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
No worries at all. Take care.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Hi guys, welcome back. We know for a fact you were inspired by that interview. It was so good just to see that background into music composing and that vulnerability side, which I really loved because it just shows that pure art where music is really pushing through with film scores and also theatre productions, which is great to see.
Yeah, and definitely keep a lookout, listen to music when you're watching the films and just realise how much goes into making those film scores and how much the music scores affect the films and the drama that you see, because it is incredible and there's a lot of passion and work that goes into it.
Definitely. And as he mentioned, don't forget to follow Darren J Benjamin on Instagram. You can follow him on Twitter. He did say you can Google him either, and it's all good, so I'm sure it is all good. But please don't forget to follow him and learn more about his music, because I tell you what, this has been like such a great journey. Again, it's always a journey with all of our guests, but it's really important that we get to see that side of it, especially when it comes to behind the scenes of what film is and what cinematography that we see. Seeing that element of music is just so inspiring.
Okay, so if you want to share what you thought of the interview, share your thoughts of what inspired you, then please do so. And Mel, as always, will share the social media.
Okay, so don't forget to follow us at RIME Entertainment Official, or you can also follow us at sisters_in_rhyme. And how do we spell rhyme?
RIME.
Okay, great guys. We'll see you again this month for July. Bye.